Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the alien vessels flying beside them. The other ships looked like they were made of glass and light. They moved through space without making any sound or showing any exhaust flames. Their hulls were smooth and curved like someone had grown them instead of building them. Some of the ships looked like they were made of crystal that bent starlight around their edges. Others seemed to be alive and pulsing with soft blue lights. Jake's ship was different. The UES Defiant looked exactly like what it was. It was a human warship that had been flying through space for almost 100 years. The hull was made of thick metal plates that had scorch marks from old battles. Gun turrets stuck out from the sides like angry fists. The engine ports at the back glowed orange and red when they pushed the ship forward. Compared to the alien ships around them, the Defiant looked like an old truck driving next to sports cars. Commander Lisa Hayes walked up to stand next to Jake. She was holding a data pad, and she did not look happy. Lisa had been Jake's second in command for 5 years. She was smart and tough, and she hated it when other people looked down on humans. Right now, her face showed that someone had just insulted her and her crew. "The Zephyrian ambassador sent us new orders," Lisa said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the anger underneath. "They want us to stay at the back of the formation. They said our engines might mess up their gravity field generators." Jake nodded, but he felt his jaw get tight. This was nothing new. Ever since humans had joined the Galactic Council 15 years ago, they had been treated like the dumb kids in school. The other alien races had technology that seemed like magic. They could make weapons that passed through solid matter. They had shields that could bend space and time. They could travel between stars without using fuel. Humans still used bullets and bombs and rocket fuel. Their ships were made of metal and ceramic instead of living crystal or pure energy. When human ships got damaged, they had to be fixed with tools and welding torches. When alien ships got hurt, they could heal themselves or just grow new parts. The mission today was supposed to be simple. They were escorting a Council science ship to meet a new alien race called the Sypher-8. The meeting was going to happen at the edge of known space where no one had been before. The Council scientists wanted to make peaceful contact and learn about Cypher technology. Jake had read the reports about the Sypher-8. Their ships were grown instead of built. The ships were alive and could think for themselves. Cypher weapons could change the basic structure of matter and turn solid metal into gas. Their defenses could adapt to any attack and become stronger each time they were hit. Even the advanced Council members were nervous about meeting them. Lieutenant Commander Ben Carter came over to where Jake and Lisa were standing. Ben was the ship's tactical officer. He knew more about weapons and fighting than anyone else on the ship. He was carrying a tablet full of information about their mission. "Captain, I have been studying the intelligence reports about Sypher-8 capabilities," Ben said. He always talked like he was giving a formal report, even when they were just having a conversation. "Their bioships can heal from any damage in minutes. They can change their molecular structure to adapt to new threats. Their weapons appear to work by changing matter at the quantum level." "And what does Command expect us to do if something goes wrong?" Jake asked. Lisa made a sound that was almost a laugh, but not a happy one. "We're supposed to stay out of the way and let our more capable allies handle any problems." Jake looked back out at the alien ships. The Altarian vessel in the lead looked like a flying cathedral made of blue crystal. Energy flowed through it like blood through veins. The Zephyrian ships moved like fish swimming through water even though they were in the vacuum of space. The Nexari vessels were part machine and part living creature, with metal bones and organic skin. All of these ships represented civilizations that were thousands of years older than humanity. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still learning how to make fire. Their technology was so advanced that it seemed like they could do anything they wanted just by thinking about it. But Jake had been in the military for 20 years, and he had learned something important. Fancy technology was good, but it was not everything. Sometimes the simple solution was the best solution. Sometimes being tough and stubborn was more important than being smart and sophisticated. "Sir, we are approaching the rendezvous point," called out Ensign Katie Wells from the navigation station. Katie was young and eager, and she still got excited about flying through space. The Cypher ship should arrive in 30 minutes. Jake walked over to his command chair and sat down. The chair was not comfortable, and it did not have any fancy controls built into it. It was just a place to sit and think and make decisions. Some of the alien ships had command centers that looked like throne rooms or meditation chambers. The Defiance bridge looked like the inside of a submarine. "All stations report ready." Lisa said as she took her position next to Jake's chair. Ben was at his tactical station running checks on the ship's weapons. The Defiant carried railguns that fired metal slugs at incredible speed. It had missile tubes loaded with high explosive warheads. It had point defense guns that could shoot down incoming projectiles. All of this technology was hundreds of years old by galactic standards, but it still worked. Jake knew that if something went wrong today, his crew would be ready. They might not have the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but they had something else. They had experience and determination and the ability to think fast when things got dangerous. The alien ships around them were impressive, and beautiful, and powerful. But Jake had a feeling that before this day was over, the galaxy was going to learn something new about the humans they thought were so primitive and outdated. The Cypher ship appeared out of nowhere like a nightmare made real. One moment there was empty space, and the next moment, something impossible was floating in front of the Council fleet. Jake Morrison stared through the bridge viewport at the alien vessel and felt his stomach turn cold. The ship was alive. There was no other way to describe it. The hull looked like skin stretched over bone and muscle. It pulsed with a slow rhythm like a heartbeat. Patterns of light moved across its surface in waves of blue and green and purple. The ship was enormous. It was easily 3 times the size of the largest Council vessel, but it moved through space like a living creature swimming through water. "Contact established," reported Ensign Katie Wells from her communication station. Her voice was excited, but Jake could hear nervousness underneath. "The Altarian flagship is sending standard greeting protocols to the Cypher vessel." The Council's lead ship was the Luminous Dawn. It was a beautiful crystal structure that looked like a frozen waterfall made of light. Admiral Chen commanded the ship, and he was considered one of the best diplomatic officers in the galaxy. If anyone could make peaceful contact with a new species, it would be him. Jake watched as energy tendrils reached out from the Luminous Dawn toward the Cypher ship. The alien vessel responded by extending similar appendages that looked like glowing nerve endings. When they touched, there was a flash of light and both ships began exchanging information. "The translation computers are working on the Cypher language," Katie reported. "Initial contact appears to be proceeding normally. For several minutes, everything seemed to go well. The 2 ships hung in space connected by streams of energy, while their computers tried to understand each other. The other Council vessels held their positions in a protective formation around the diplomatic meeting. Lieutenant Commander Ben Carter was monitoring the tactical situation from his weapons station. "All ships report normal status," he said. "No signs of hostile intent from the Cypher vessel." Commander Lisa Hayes stood next to Jake's command chair watching the proceedings. "Think this will actually work?" she asked quietly. "Maybe," Jake replied. "The Council has made peaceful contact with 47 different species. They know what they're doing." But even as he said it, Jake felt something was wrong. He had been in combat situations before, and he had learned to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were telling him that danger was coming. The first sign of trouble was subtle. The light patterns on the Cypher ship began to change. The soft blues and greens shifted to deeper colors. Purple became red. Green became yellow. The pulsing rhythm that had seemed like a slow heartbeat began to speed up. "Captain," Katie called out with alarm in her voice. The communication link between the flagship and the Cypher vessel just went dead. Jake felt his muscles tense. "What happened?" "Unknown, sir." The Cypher ship just stopped responding to all signals. On the main view screen, Jake could see the alien vessel beginning to change. Its hull was expanding and shifting like clay being reshaped by invisible hands. New structures were growing out of its surface. Things that looked like weapons or sensory organs or something worse. "Energy spike detected," Ben Carter announced from his tactical station. "The Cypher ship is charging some kind of weapon system. Power levels are off the scale." Jake grabbed the communication controls. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Be advised the Cypher vessel appears to be taking hostile action. Recommend defensive positions," but it was already too late. The alien ship released a wave of energy that moved across space like ripples in a pond. When the wave hit the Luminous Dawn, something terrible happened. The beautiful crystal structure of the Council flagship began to dissolve. Not explode or break apart, but actually dissolve like sugar in hot water. Jake watched in horror as the proud ship and its crew of 300 simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, and the next moment there was nothing but empty space and scattered particles. "Dear God," Lisa whispered. The communication channels erupted with panicked voices as the other council ships realized what had happened. Admiral Voss aboard the Stellar Harmony took command of the remaining fleet. All vessels, this is Admiral Voss. Diplomatic contact has failed. The Sypher vessel is hostile. All ships moved to attack formation and engage the threat. The Council fleet was impressive when it went into battle mode. 12 ships moved with perfect coordination into a fighting formation. Their weapon systems powered up and space filled with deadly energy. The Zephyrian ships fired gravity weapons that could crush matter into black holes. The Altarian vessels used particle beams that could core a planet. The Nexari ships launched living missiles that could think for themselves and adapt to enemy defenses. For a few minutes, it looked like the Council fleet might win. Energy weapons of every type imaginable hammered into the Sypher ship. Explosions bloomed across its hull and chunks of organic matter were blasted away into space. But then something horrible happened. The Sypher ship began to adapt. Its hull changed color and texture as it learned to absorb or deflect each type of weapon that hit it. When gravity bombs struck its surface, the hull became denser and harder. When particle beams cut into it, the wounds sealed themselves and grew armor. When living missiles tried to penetrate its defenses, new immune systems appeared to destroy them. "This is impossible," Ben Carter said as he watched his sensor readings. "That thing is learning faster than we can attack it." The Sypher ship was not just defending itself. It was growing larger and stronger with each passing minute. New weapon appendages sprouted from its hull like malignant tumors. When they fired back at the Council ships, their beams passed right through shields and armor, as if they were not even there. Jake watched helplessly as ship after ship was destroyed. The proud Nexari cruiser Golden Wind simply stopped existing when hit by the molecular dissolution beam. The Zephyrian destroyer Star Dancer was torn apart by weapons that reached inside its hull and changed its metal into gas. "Sir, we are receiving general retreat orders," Lisa reported. Her voice was steady, but her face was pale. "All surviving ships are ordered to withdraw to minimum safe distance." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They were good people who had trained their whole careers to fight enemies and protect innocent lives. Now they were being ordered to run away while an alien monster destroyed everything in its path. "Sir, what are your orders?" Ben Carter asked. Jake Morrison made a decision that would change everything. "Send a message to the retreating fleet. Tell them the outdated humans will handle this." Admiral Voss's voice came through the communication system like an angry storm. "Captain Morrison, have you lost your mind? That thing just destroyed 8 Council ships in 10 minutes. Your primitive weapons cannot possibly harm it." Jake Morrison stood calmly on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the Sypher bioship through the main viewport. The alien creature had grown to twice its original size by feeding on the destroyed Council vessels. Its hull rippled with new weapon ports that glowed like infected wounds. Energy crackled around its body as it searched for new targets to destroy. "With respect, Admiral, our primitive weapons have not been tested yet." Jake replied into his communication headset. The surviving Council ships were retreating at maximum speed toward the edge of the system. Only 3 vessels remained in the combat zone. The Defiant hung alone in space facing an enemy that had just proven it could adapt to any weapon the galaxy's most advanced civilizations could throw at it. Lieutenant Commander Ben Carter was running calculations at his tactical station. His fingers moved quickly across his control panel as he analyzed sensor data about their enemy. "Captain, the Sypher ship's adaptive hull has successfully countered every type of energy weapon in the Council arsenal. Particle beams, gravity projectors, phase, cannons, quantum disruptors. It absorbed them all and became stronger." Commander Lisa Hayes moved to stand beside Jake's command chair. She had a smile on her face that would have scared most people who did not know her well. It was the smile she got when she was about to do something dangerous and probably stupid. "But Ben, it has not faced kinetic projectiles yet, has it?" Ben looked up from his instruments with surprise on his face. "Negative, Commander. Council ships have relied exclusively on energy-based weaponry for the past 3 centuries. The Sypher's adaptive systems have no experience with solid projectiles." Jake felt something click into place in his mind. The alien creature was incredibly intelligent, and it could adapt to any attack by learning how to counter it. But it could only adapt to threats it had encountered before. The Council races had become so advanced that they had forgotten about simple physical weapons. They used energy and exotic matter and quantum effects to fight their battles. Humans still used bullets. "Ben, load all forward batteries with tungsten core penetrator rounds," Jake ordered. "Lisa, prepare the missile tubes with high explosive warheads. the kind that use chemical explosives, not energy-based detonation. As his crew prepared for battle, Jake opened a ship-wide communication channel. His voice carried to every deck and every compartment of the Defiant. "All hands, this is the captain. I know what they say about us out there. Primitive, backward, stuck in the past while everyone else has moved on to better things. Today, we are going to show the galaxy that sometimes the old ways are the best ways." The Cypher ship had noticed that one council vessel had not retreated with the others. Its bioluminescent patterns shifted to the aggressive red coloration that meant it was preparing to attack. Tendrils of energy began forming around its weapon ports like angry snakes made of lightning. Ensign Katie Wells was monitoring the alien ship's transmissions from her communication station. "Captain, the Cypher vessel is broadcasting something. The computer cannot translate it, but the pattern suggests it is some kind of threat or warning." "I do not need a translation, Katie," Jake said grimly. "It is telling us the same thing everyone else does, that we are inferior and about to be destroyed." The alien ship began moving toward the Defiant with the fluid grace of a predator closing in on wounded prey. Its hull continued to ripple and change as new defensive systems grew across its surface. Whatever weapons the humans used, the creature was confident it could adapt to them, just as it had adapted to everything else. "Target acquired," Ben Carter reported from his tactical station. "All batteries loaded and ready. Missile tubes prepared. Range is optimal for kinetic engagement." Jake took one last look at the monster bearing down on his ship. It was beautiful in a terrible way. A living weapon that represented millions of years of evolution focused on one goal: destroying anything that threatened it. The Council's energy weapons had been like food to the creature. Each attack had made it stronger and smarter and more dangerous. But no one in the galaxy used kinetic weapons anymore. No one except humans. "Fire!" Jake ordered. The Defiant's main batteries erupted in brilliant flashes as dozens of tungsten core rounds screamed across space at tremendous speed. The projectiles were simple metal slugs fired by magnetic acceleration. There was nothing exotic about them. No energy fields or quantum effects or mysterious physics. Just solid matter moving very fast toward a target. The Cypher ship's hull began to ripple and shift as its adaptive systems detected incoming threats. The creature's biology was already working to counter this new attack. But there was nothing to counter. The rounds were not energy that could be absorbed or deflected. They were not exotic matter that could be phase-shifted or neutralized. They were just chunks of very hard metal moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The tungsten penetrators punched through the bioship's hull like bullets through wet paper. Massive chunks of organic matter were torn away and flung into space. The creature's adaptive armor was completely useless against simple kinetic impact. The alien ship produced a sound that somehow transmitted through the vacuum of space. It was a shriek of pain and surprise and something that might have been fear. For the first time since the battle began, the Cypher creature had encountered something it could not easily adapt to. "Direct hits across the forward section," Ben reported with satisfaction in his voice. "Multiple hull breaches. The adaptive armor systems appear to be ineffective against kinetic penetration." "Follow up with missiles," Jake ordered. "Show them what chemical explosives can do to living tissue." The Defiant's missile tubes opened and launched a spread of high-explosive warheads toward the wounded alien ship. These were not sophisticated weapons. They were simple devices filled with chemical compounds that created very large explosions when they mixed together. The kind of weapons humans had been using for hundreds of years before they ever left their home planet. The missiles struck the Cypher ship and detonated in brilliant fireballs that lit up the darkness of space. Chemical explosions bloomed across the creature's hull like deadly flowers. More chunks of biomatter were blasted away and the alien ship began to spin out of control. Admiral Voss's voice came over the communication channel again, but this time it carried a tone of amazement instead of anger. "Captain Morrison, what did you just do to that thing?" The Cypher bioship writhed in space like a wounded animal trying to escape from a trap. Chunks of its living hull drifted away from the massive holes that the Defiant's kinetic weapons had torn through its body. Biofluid leaked from the wounds in streams that froze instantly in the cold vacuum of space. The creature's bioluminescent patterns flickered between red and yellow as its systems tried to process what had just happened to it. Jake Morrison watched the alien ship through his bridge viewport and knew better than to celebrate too early. He had been in enough fights to understand that a wounded enemy was often more dangerous than a healthy one. Through the gaps in the creature's hull, he could see movement inside. The bioship was already working to repair itself. "Captain, I am detecting rapid cellular regeneration across the damaged sections," reported Lieutenant Commander Ben Carter from his tactical station. "The wounds are beginning to close. Estimated time to full repair is 12 minutes. That thing heals fast," Commander Lisa Hayes said as she studied the sensor readings on her datapad. "But look at this, Jake. The creature is doing something else too." Jake looked at the tactical display that Lisa was showing him. The Sypher ship was not just healing from the damage. It was changing its entire structure. The hull was growing thicker and developing new formations that looked like armor plating. Defensive systems were sprouting from its surface like mechanical tumors. Ensign Katie Wells called out from her communication station with alarm in her voice. "Captain, the Sypher vessel is broadcasting again. This time the transmission contains detailed scans of our ship. It is analyzing our weapons, our hull composition, even our crew life signs." Jake felt his blood turn cold as he realized what was happening. It is learning how to fight us. The alien creature was incredibly intelligent. It had adapted to every energy weapon the Council had used against it, by studying how those weapons worked and developing countermeasures. Now it was doing the same thing with human kinetic weapons. The bioship was figuring out how to stop bullets and missiles. "Sir, the creature is developing some kind of kinetic barrier system," Ben announced as he watched his sensor readings. "It appears to be growing specialized armor designed to deflect solid projectiles." "Our next attack run may not be as effective," Jake thought quickly. The creature's ability to adapt was its greatest strength, but it might also be its weakness. Every time it changed to counter a new threat, it had to use energy and biological resources. More importantly, it had to focus its attention on the adaptation process. "Ben, how much conventional ordnance do we have remaining?" "Enough for sustained bombardment, sir. But if the creature adapts to kinetic weapons, we may not be able to penetrate its defenses." Jake studied the alien ship as it continued to change and evolve before his eyes. The creature could adapt to any single type of attack, but could it handle multiple different threats at the same time? Every biological system had limits, even one as advanced as this. "Lisa, take us in close. Point-blank range." Lisa looked at him with surprise. "Sir, at that distance, the creature could use contact weapons against us. It might even try to board our ship." "Exactly," Jake replied with a grim smile. "Ben, prepare the Marines for boarding action. Break out the combat gear and the close-quarters weapons." The bridge fell silent as the implications of Jake's order sank in. Admiral Voss's voice crackled over the communication system from the retreating Council fleet. "Captain Morrison, please tell me you are not planning what I think you are planning." "Admiral, we are going to do what humans do best," Jake replied calmly. "We are going to be unpredictable." The Defiant began moving toward the wounded Sypher ship under full thrust. As they closed the distance, Jake could see the creature's adaptive systems working frantically. Sections of its hull were developing kinetic barriers, while other areas sprouted what looked like defensive weapon systems. But the more the creature focused on external threats, the more vulnerable it became to something that no galactic species had attempted in centuries: a boarding action. "All Marines report to deployment stations," Lisa announced over the ship's internal communication system. "Prepare for hostile environment operations." Sergeant Danny Rodriguez acknowledged the order from the Marine deck. "Copy that, Commander. All squads are gearing up for close-quarters combat." The Defiant's Marine complement was not large. Only 40 soldiers trained in boarding operations and ship-to-ship fighting. But they were equipped with weapons and tactics that the galaxy had forgotten. Chemical-based explosives that could not be adapted to easily, flamethrowers that used simple combustion reactions, acid weapons that dissolved organic matter through basic chemistry. "Sir, even if we get inside that thing, how do we kill something that size from within?" Ben asked as he watched the alien ship growing larger in the viewport. Jake Morrison had been thinking about the same question. The bioship was enormous and it could regenerate from almost any damage, but it was still a living creature, and all living creatures had vital organs. Somewhere inside that hull was a brain or a heart, or some kind of central control system that kept the whole organism functioning. "The same way humans have always fought superior enemies, Ben," Jake replied. "We find the heart and we stop it from beating." The Defiant closed to within a few hundred meters of the Sypher ship. At this range, Jake could see individual details on the creature's hull. Areas where the organic armor was thick and heavily defended. Other sections that looked softer and more vulnerable. The bioship's weapon ports were tracking the human vessel, but they seemed confused about what to do. The creature had adapted to fight at long range against energy weapons. It was not prepared for close-quarters combat. "Magnetic grapples ready," reported the docking officer. "We can lock onto their hull whenever you give the order, Captain." "Do it," Jake commanded. The grapples fired and clamped onto the alien ship's hull with a metallic clang that echoed through both vessels. Cutting torches began burning through the creature's adaptive armor, while the Marines prepared their equipment. In a few minutes, human soldiers would be fighting inside a living alien warship, using weapons and tactics that the galaxy considered obsolete. Jake opened a communication channel to the entire crew. "All hands, this is the captain. We are about to do something that has never been attempted before. We are going inside an enemy bioship to destroy it from within. Remember that we are representing all of humanity today. Show them what we are made of." The cutting torches burned through the Sypher ship's hull with bright blue flames that sparked and hissed against the alien armor. Captain Jake Morrison led the first boarding team through the breach they had cut in the creature's side. His boots touched the organic floor with a wet squelching sound that made his stomach turn. The interior of the bioship was like stepping inside a living nightmare. Everything around them was alive. The walls pulsed with a slow rhythm like a giant heartbeat. Veins ran along the ceiling carrying glowing fluid that provided the only light in the dark corridors. The air was thick and humid and tasted of copper and something else that Jake could not identify. When he touched the wall with his gloved hand, it felt warm and slightly sticky. "This is like being inside someone's stomach," muttered Sergeant Danny Rodriguez as he followed Jake through the narrow passageway. Danny was carrying a flamethrower and enough chemical explosives to level a city block. Behind him came 8 more Marines armed with weapons that no other species in the galaxy used anymore. "Stay focused," Jake replied into his helmet communicator. "And what is our target?" Back on the Defiance Bridge, Lieutenant Commander Ben Carter was using their crude but effective sonar systems to map the interior of the bioship. "Captain, there appears to be a central chamber approximately 2 kilometers from your current position. Energy readings suggest it is some kind of control center or primary brain." The boarding teams moved deeper into the alien vessel, following corridors that twisted and curved like blood vessels. The bioship knew they were inside and it was trying to stop them. Antibody creatures emerged from the walls like white blood cells attacking an infection. They were the size of large dogs and moved on dozens of thin legs. Their mouths were full of needle-sharp teeth. The Marines opened fire with chemical-based weapons that the creatures had never encountered before. Flamethrowers filled the corridors with fire that burned at temperatures hot enough to melt steel. The antibody creatures dissolved under the assault of simple combustion chemistry. "Contact front," called out Corporal Amy Foster as more defensive organisms appeared ahead of them. Amy was the team's demolitions expert, and she carried enough explosives to sink a battleship. She threw a chemical grenade that released acid when it detonated. The acid ate through the organic matter of the corridor walls like water through paper. The bioship tried other defenses. Toxic spores filled the air, but the Marines' sealed suits protected them from biological attacks. Passages tried to seal themselves with bone-like growths, but explosive charges blasted through the barriers. Electric fields crackled along the walls, but human equipment was shielded against electromagnetic interference. "This is incredible," came a transmission from Admiral Voss, who was monitoring the boarding. "Action from the retreating Council fleet. How are they surviving inside that thing?" Commander Lisa Hayes answered from the Defiance Bridge with pride in her voice. "Because humans do not rely on sophisticated technology to do our fighting for us, Admiral. We adapt faster than any computer program." Deep inside the bioship, Jake's team reached a vast chamber that took his breath away. The space was enormous, like a cathedral made of living tissue. The walls curved upward into darkness and were covered with neural tissue that sparked with electrical activity. Organic conduits carried glowing fluid between different sections of what was obviously a giant brain. At the center of the chamber floated a mass of tissue that pulsed with intelligence. It was the size of a small building and covered with sensory organs that tracked the humans as they entered its domain. This was the creature's primary consciousness. "The mind that controlled the entire bioship, sir. I have enough explosives to destroy this entire section," reported Amy Foster as she studied the alien brain with professional interest. But Jake held up his hand as he heard something impossible. The creature was trying to communicate with them. Not in its alien language, but in broken English that came from speakers grown into the chamber walls. "Humans, you are unexpected," the voice said slowly, as if the creature was learning how to speak even as it talked. Your methods are primitive, but they are effective. We have learned much from you. Then you have learned that we do not give up, Jake replied firmly. Yes, we see now why the Council fears you. You do not rely on tools to make you strong. You become the tool yourselves. Jake looked around at his team. These were men and women who had been told their entire careers that they were inferior to their galactic neighbors, that their technology was outdated and their methods were primitive. But here they stood inside an alien superweapon that had destroyed half a Council fleet. We are just people doing our job, Jake said. No. The creature's voice was growing weaker as Amy's explosives damaged its neural networks. You are evolution. Not evolution of technology, but evolution of spirit. The Council builds machines to do what they cannot do. Humans remain what machines cannot become. Amy triggered her explosives and the chamber filled with chemical fire. The alien brain screamed as its neural networks were severed by simple combustion reactions. The bioship's central intelligence died not from exotic energy weapons or quantum effects, but from old-fashioned explosives that any human soldier could understand and use. As the creature's consciousness faded, Jake Morrison felt something important had just happened. Humanity had sent a message to the galaxy. They might not have the most advanced technology or the most elegant ships, but they had something more valuable. They had the ability to adapt and improvise and overcome any challenge through determination and ingenuity. The boarding teams made their way back to the Defiant as the bioship died around them. Without its central brain, the creature could not maintain its vital functions. Its hull began to break apart and drift away into space. When Jake returned to his bridge, Admiral Voss was waiting on the communication channel. Captain Morrison, the Council would like to discuss upgrading humanity's status within the galactic community. We have been greatly impressed by your capabilities. Jake looked out at the stars and smiled. Tell them we will consider it, Admiral, but we are doing just fine with our outdated methods. The ship they had called primitive had just demonstrated something the galaxy had forgotten. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways, and the most dangerous weapon in the universe was a human being who refused to quit.